P.E.R.S.I, Personal Emergent Robotic Service Interface, by Kylee Conrad. Read by Steve Parker. "Good morning, Master Owen," spoke a synthetic yet calmative male voice. "I placed a selection of garments on your dressing table." The mound of blanket and pillow-covered man remained unstirred in his bed. "Dr. Shiraz will be here within the hour."
"I don't think I can stand to see him first thing in the morning, Percy. Tell him I prefer this evening,"
groaned Owen from his cottony cocoon. "Inadvisable, Master Owen," replied the ever-attentive companion. "Central has issued an imminent storm warning. Dr. Shiraz will not have sufficient time for his return travel at a later juncture, as it would coincide with the projected...
But you've got exabytes of medical information in your databanks. Why can't you give the examination?"
Owen gruffly interjected. "I lack the necessary tactile functionality required to perform particular vital tasks due to the limitations of my hardware. My apologies, Master Owen," answered P.E.R.S.I.
"Fine, you can have 10 minutes.
Owen sighed begrudgingly as he tore off his covers and kicked his way out of bed. "Very good, sir," said P.E.R.S.I. Owen watched through the relative safety of a slit between the window blinds as his P.E.R.S.I unit assisted his long-time doctor exit an autopod, then climb up the front stoop of his modest manor house. A persistent wind was already pushing through, and despite the diffusion the canopy of the surrounding grove provided, the frantically dancing light was too much for Owen's unaccustomed eyes. He turned away and began rubbing them with both palms, creating a colorful kaleidoscope on the back of his eyelids, reminiscent of fireworks against a night sky. Or so he surmised, having only seen them on television screens or in pictures while stuck in a sickly bed.
"The storm is ahead of schedule. We'll make it quick today, Percy,"
huffed the old doctor with his familiar tight-lipped timbre, snapping Owen out of his trance.
"Let's have a look at you."
Owen unbuttoned his shirt while making his way to the leather Chesterfield bench near the center of the room, and Dr. Shiraz gingerly perched himself upon the wooden stool directly across, both as if they had met like this 100 times before. The doctor began to poke, prod, and palpate as usual, skipping all pleasantries.
"Heart rate, blood pressure, reflexes, all in perfect range. Your scars are fading very nicely. The balm is working, I see," reported the doctor. "And Percy tells me your movement is vastly improved. I'm going to increase your selegiline dosage by 0.5 milligram," he went on. "Now, what about the Owen upstairs,
asked Dr. Shiraz, tapping his index finger on his temple and looking at him the way a parent looks at a child who's neglected his chores.
"Have you spoken with anyone other than Percy lately, or made any efforts to go beyond your own gate?"
Owen crossed his arms and shrugged dismissively.
"Percy, when was the last time Owen crossed any thresholds or set foot in the garden?"
asked the doctor.
145 days ago, sir," revealed Percy.
"I enjoy talking to Percy, and I don't need to go anywhere. I have everything I need right here."
"Mother made sure," said Owen. "She made you a prisoner," Dr. Shiraz exclaimed. "And what about Percy? You can't get parts for his model anymore. His battery is already experiencing self-discharge. It's only a matter of time before—"
"Attention. This is a Priority Central broadcast. Storm warning upgraded from Category 3 to Category 4. Severe winds. Anticipate grid outages," blared an alert, suddenly displaying on the central comm panels throughout the house.
"Doctor, it would be wise for your departure," said Percy.
The doctor agreed, then turned his attention back to Owen with a stern but caring tone, saying,
"I'm too old for house calls these days, but you're still a young man. It's time to start living like one. Doctor's orders,
P.E.R.S.I thanked the doctor and quickly ushered his exit. Owen solemnly returned to staring out the window, fixated on the tops of the trees, thrashing against what would soon become a Stygian sky. Hours passed, or maybe it was only minutes, when, lost in his thoughts, he was pulled from a trance into a chaotic fog, finding P.E.R.S.I dragging him into the cellar. His clothes were littered with bits of broken glass and tree branch, and his ears began to split from the deafeningly demonic moans of the tempest outside.
Master Owen, you have sustained injuries. Do not attempt to move. I must retrieve supplies in order to render first aid. Can you hear me? Shouted Percy.
She said, I'm too sick to go see the fireworks, was Owen's curious and only response before slipping into syncope. Owen came to, confused and covered in grit, but fresh bandages covered his cuts and scratches. He called out to Percy without answer. He slowly started moving towards the cellar exit in the darkness when poor Percy came into his sight. He was in a powered-down position, with a piece of fence post impaled through his chest section, and his left forearm was missing entirely. "Oh no, Percy, please no!" Owen cried out, and began a futile effort to power him up. In this moment, Owen was just as powerless and overwhelmed with his fear and insecurity. Instinctively, he held onto Percy's intact hand for comfort and found it was clutching a piece of gypsum. He immediately regained a glimmer of hope, realizing Percy had chalked a message somewhere. He bolted for the cellar doors and fiercely flung them open, flooding the cellar with daylight. As his eyes adjusted, Percy's final message came into focus on the back wall. A sketched image of a boy watching gigantic fireworks bursting in the sky above. "Thank you," said Owen, emerging from underground. He spotted a man waving at him in the distance, and for the first time, Owen held up his hand and waved back.
Steve Parker Audiobooks!